June 16, 2025.
In the dead of night, air defense sirens wailed in Israel. Residents who were previously sleeping soundly ran to bunkers and shelters. Meanwhile, the sky of Tel Aviv was lit up by the flashes of the air defense system working hard to intercept the rain of ballistic missiles fired by Iran. Huge explosions shook the heart of the city, and in just a matter of hours, Israel turned into a war zone. This was the impact of Iran's retaliatory attack. A brutal and planned attack launched after Israel dared to launch a military operation into the heart of Iran. A few days earlier, on Friday morning, precisely on June 13th, Israel took a dramatic step that triggered an explosion of open conflict with Iran. Without warning, the Israeli Air Force launched a preemptive strike deep into Iranian territory. The attack targeted nuclear facilities and important military installations in several cities including Tehran, Navan, Tabriz, and Isfahan. This surprise attack was very surprising and shook the capital city of Tehran at 3 a.m. local time. The Israeli airstrike succeeded in destroying a number of strategic sites. Local Iranian media reported that the attack had killed several important figures, including Hussein Salami, a senior commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. In addition to military commanders, Israel's main target is Iran's nuclear program. In this opening operation, the IDF confirmed that it had killed 9 Iranian nuclear scientists who were considered to have played a major role in the development of nuclear weapons. The IDF even released the names of the scientists they had killed, including a nuclear engineering expert and a physics expert. Where the scientists were claimed by Israel to have decades of knowledge and experience in Iran's atomic bomb project. It didn't take long for Israel to realize that they would soon receive a terrible response from Iran. Therefore, the Israeli Ministry of Defense immediately declared a civil emergency status throughout the country, closed the airspace to commercial flights, and appealed to citizens to prepare for possible missile and drone attacks from Iran. Tel Aviv International Airport was immediately closed to all incoming and outgoing flights until further notice.
Use Kayak's Explore tool to see just how far your budget can take you. Reykjavik? Spectacular. Then do it.
It didn't take long for tensions to thicken. The Israeli public held their breath waiting for Iran's reaction. Ayatollah Ali Khomeini, Iran's supreme leader, angrily condemned Israel's evil attacks, which he said were deliberately targeting civilian settlement centers. Khomeini vowed that Iran would never remain silent and that Israel, he said, had prepared bitter and painful rice for itself and they would definitely accept it. On Friday afternoon, June 13th, or just hours after Israel's preemptive strike, Iran launched a massive retaliatory strike. The first wave consisted of 100 ballistic missiles fired at various targets in Israeli territory. Warning sirens sounded in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and other cities as Israeli radars detected a rapid barrage of projectiles. Shortly afterward, loud explosions were heard in central Israel, especially Tel Aviv, indicating that a number of missiles had managed to escape the defenses and hit their targets. One of Iran's main targets in this initial attack was the Kia complex in central Tel Aviv, which is the headquarters of the Israeli military and the Ministry of Defense, often referred to as Israel's Pentagon. The Iranian missiles hit the area around the Marganin Tower, an iconic high high-rise adjacent to the Kiryat complex. And the explosion in the heart of the command center shook Israel's defense coordination. Even when IDF spokesman Evi Devrin was holding a press conference at the Kriya base, suddenly the base's loudspeaker warned of a state of defense alert, forcing Devrin to stop his explanation and seek shelter. This direct attack on the heart of the Israeli command is recognized as having the potential to paralyze the control of military intelligence operations, as well as the Israeli decision-making process. As a result of the attack, Tel Aviv was gripped by panic. Israeli firefighters worked hard for hours to evacuate residents trapped in high-rise buildings that partially collapsed due to the explosion. To prevent greater damage, Israel deployed a maximum defense system including Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow. The Israeli military claimed that they had successfully intercepted many incoming missiles. However, it cannot be denied that several Iranian missiles managed to escape and hit the heart of the cities. Iranian missile attacks did not only come from Iran itself. The Israeli military confirmed that they detected missile launches from Yemen that were heading towards Israeli territory. In addition, air raid alarms also sounded in northern Israel and were suspected of being a response to the presence of unknown drones near the Lebanese border. Although Hezbollah in Lebanon has not yet openly entered the battlefield, signs such as surveillance drones on the border add to the anxiety that the northern front could explode at any time. Israel is forced to guard on multiple fronts. The south faces a possible threat from Palestinian groups in Gaza. The north is wary of Hezbollah in Lebanon and pro-Iranian militias in Syria. Then the east and far south are watching for potential attacks from Iranian-backed militias in Yemen or Iraq. So practically the entire Israeli region is under siege. In the midst of the onslaught, Israeli civilians are experiencing mass trauma. Sirens that always sound all night long make Israelis unable to sleep soundly for a moment. Many families are crowded in bomb shelters praying for morning to come. But in reality, the first night alone feels so long for those who are afraid. Everyone realizes that this is just the beginning of a wider war. The Israeli government itself has even warned the Israeli people that they need to be in or near shelters for quite a long time. Entering Saturday, June 14th, the conflict flared even more fiercely. Iran and Israel attacked each other all day. In the early hours of the morning, Israel launched another airstrike against Iran targeting missile launch infrastructure around Tehran. Israeli fighter jets were deployed to attack Iranian missile launch bases in the hope of stopping the rain of missiles on Israel. Telephone thieves seem to be trying hard to break the Iranian missile system's defenses directly at the source. But unfortunately, Iran was very prepared for all of that. The Iranian government claims that its air defense system has successfully shot down a number of Israeli surveillance drones that entered Iranian airspace in the northwest. Even more surprising, Tehran claims to have shot down 2 Israeli fighter jets involved in an airstrike in Iran the day before. And an Israeli female fighter pilot was reportedly captured alive by Iranian forces. Iranian state television reported that the Israeli drones and fighter jets were shot down while carrying out a surveillance mission. Although Israel denied this claim and insisted that all of its aircraft returned safely to base. However, Iran continues to release information about shooting down 3 enemy CF-35 units.
It's hot in here. We need some pedestal fans.
And sky was on board. Iran continued to bombard Israeli territory with missiles on the second day. Wave after wave of ballistic missiles hit again from Friday night to Saturday morning. Sirens blared again in Jerusalem before midnight, indicating a new airstrike. Tel Aviv and Jerusalem were the main targets of this Iranian follow-up attack. And as a result of this attack, the number of skyscrapers destroyed in Tel Aviv increased to a total of at least 9 buildings that were destroyed or collapsed due to direct attacks, including shopping centers and office complexes. The modern metropolis is now in ruins in several places. The sight of burning cars on the streets and piled up building debris has become a haunting reality for Zionist citizens. In critical conditions, international support for Israel is being tested. The United States, as Israel's main ally, is moving quickly to help defend Israel. Washington is reported to have deployed military assets to help shoot down threatening Iranian missiles. The United States, British warships in the Mediterranean Sea, and the Western Allies' radar systems in the region are involved to strengthen Israel's anti-missile shield. However, this step has actually sparked even greater anger from Tehran. The Iranian government has openly threatened 3 Western countries, namely the United States, Britain, and France, that their military bases in the Middle East will be the next target of Iranian attacks if they continue to intervene to help Israel. In an official statement, Iran firmly stated that any country involved in repelling Iran's attacks on Israel will be the next target. Iran specifically mentioned military bases in the Persian Gulf countries and foreign warships in the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea that will be attacked by Iranian forces. This threat marks a serious escalation, a conflict that has the potential to escalate into a direct regional war between Iran and the Western Bloc. Even Iranian military sources said that the United States airbase in Iraq is on Tehran's next strategic target list. The very critical situation also triggered a global diplomatic response. Russian President Vladimir Putin strongly condemned Israel's preemptive strike against Iran. It is known that Iran is a close ally of Moscow, which immediately offered to mediate to prevent a wider war. In separate telephone communications with the leaders of Iran and Israel, Putin proposed mediation between Tehran and Tel Aviv to defuse the conflict. Meanwhile, other countries appealed to both sides to exercise restraint. Oman and Qatar, for example, moved on the diplomatic track trying to open emergency negotiation channels. But on the ground, rockets and bombs still spoke louder than diplomacy. The second day of Iran's retaliatory attacks closed with Israel increasingly locked in a defensive position. The Israeli Air Force continued to bomb targets in Iran until dawn on Saturday. But the rain of missiles into Israeli territory itself has not subsided. Parts of Israel experienced power outages due to damage to the electrical infrastructure by the explosion. Not only that, the value of the Israeli currency also fell on the international market. And most strikingly, the sense of security of the Israeli public was shattered into pieces. For the first time in their history, they felt the horror of total war firsthand. On their own soil, Israel, a region that usually relies on high-tech military superiority, now devastated by the power of missiles from the east. The sacred Zionist air defense has failed to prevent its territory from being humiliated by Iran. Even Hamas in Gaza mocked the failure of Israel's defense system that had been praised so far. Inside Israel itself, the atmosphere was tense and panic gripped civilians. Almost every hour the air raid sirens could sound, especially in the central and northern regions. Residents were forced to live in narrow bunkers for long periods of time. For many Israelis, this was the first experience of feeling their own cities being bombarded. Children and parents experienced deep trauma. Although this trauma was never comparable to the trauma and suffering felt by the Palestinian people.